Education Hotline.
The old gang is here to cheer Becky, Josh and Christine into the grand finale.
Josh was trying to trip me up for sure, you know?
Is that cooked, Josh?
Christina looks delicious.
Thanks, guys.
Thursday and Friday, MasterChef Season 3 at 8:30 on Pearl.
What if I were to deliver to you a terrorist?
I'd say delivering criminals to me is your job.
You got me.
A bomb is going to go off.
I speak only with Elizabeth Keane.
Part of me thinks that you're manipulating this whole thing.
This should be fun.
Both know it's time for you to protect yourself.
There's your next target.
That's my girl.
Are you my father?
Initiate full facility lockdown.
Better buckle up. It's got a list. Let's call it the Blacklist. That sounds exciting.
SEMA presents The Blacklist. Premise Tuesday, July 8th on Pearl.
Hong Kong moving towards universal retirement protection. Paul Chan fails to ease opposition to Northeast New Territories development project. And alleged biting incident overshadows Uruguay's World Cup win. Good evening. Results of a study on retirement protection conducted by academic Nelson Chow will be submitted to the government this weekend. It will list 6 options to provide retirement protection for Hong Kong residents. And Chow recommends that those who have $10 million or more in assets and retired civil servants with high-value pensions should not be covered by the scheme. Rani Samtani reports.
What should we do for retirement protection? After spending a year researching the issue, Professor Nelson Chow from the University of Hong Kong said 80% of the public want a universal retirement protection scheme.
I think the time is right for us to consider a comprehensive scheme because now the government is spending more than 20 billion on different kinds of social security measures for the elderly. And also, our MPF has been running for over, now it's 15 years. So at least we have a basis to move forward.
Chow's report studied 6 retirement scheme proposals. 3 of them suggest that once you reach the age of 65, you should receive a sum of money. 2 of the options propose ways to improve the existing 3-pronged approach, consisting of social welfare, personal savings, and the MPF scheme. And 1 proposal looks at modifying the existing MPF scheme. The Alliance for Universal Pensions submitted a proposal to the government suggesting that Hong Kong residents over the age of 65 should receive $3,000 a month. It says this can then replace part of the comprehensive Social Security assistance expenditure and the old age allowance. As to where the money should come from, the group recommends a combination of 3 sources. From the government, a lump sum of $50 billion in seed money. Employers and employees would each contribute 2.5% of the individual's monthly salary, and an increase in profits tax for large enterprises. But would it be fair for both the rich and poor to receive the same treatment? Chow suggests that those who have $10 million or more in assets, as well as retired civil servants with high-value pensions, should be excluded from the protection scheme. Chow's report is based on government data and provides a detailed analysis of each proposal. The report will also address the issue of elderly poverty and will compare retirement schemes implemented in different countries. The results of the report will be submitted to the Commission on Poverty for further discussion. Secretary for Labor and Welfare Matthew Zhang said the government will carefully analyze the report, but he wouldn't comment if the full report will be made public. Rani Samtani, TVB News.
Secretary for Development Paul Chan tonight met with residents affected by the Northeast New Territories development project in an attempt to win their support. But it didn't go down as planned. Some of them walked out of the meeting after voicing their opposition to the proposal. The development chief and other officials were greeted by emotional residents in Fanning. Some of those who are against the plan submitted a petition to Chan. Others called the meeting meaningless and walked out. Chan, for his part, insisted the government cannot meet their demands of not removing them and not demolishing their homes. Some did voice support for the proposal, but wanted the government to better address the issue of compensation. Afterwards, Chan put on a brave face, rejecting suggestions that the meeting was a failure.
We have very good dialogue with those villagers and residents who are keen to work with the government for a package that can cater for their needs, and on the other hand, would also facilitate the development of the project.
And it's still not clear yet if the project's funding request will be put to a vote at LegCo this week. The Finance Committee will meet again on Friday to discuss the funding requests for initial works of the Northeast New Territories Development Plan. Today, the Chief Secretary for Administration once again stressed the government is pushing ahead with the project. Carrie Lam called on the lawmakers to be responsible and vote on the funding request soon, saying delays in other funding requests are affecting people's livelihoods.
For example, public housing tenants are supposed to receive this 1 month rent waiver as a result of the budget relief measures. And over 1 million of Social Security recipients are supposed to receive an extra month of payment in the OH allowance, in the OH living allowance, and a disability allowance. But all these aspirations and hopes will be dashed if the various proposals now before the Finance Committee could not be approved in time.
Some legislators who are against the funding requests want the development chief to meet individually with affected residents before Friday.
We found out that there will be a great differences between Mr. Paul Chan and the group representatives that how to develop the Northeast.
He spoke out against today's meeting in which both supporters and opponents of the plan are present, saying it would only result in further bickering. And lawmakers are still at odds over whether Leung Sing should continue chairing the committee.
The Labour Party will propose a non-confidence motion against the chairman of the Finance Committee. He is not dealing with the matter in a fair manner.
But pro-establishment lawmakers disagree. Tam Yu-jung of the Democratic Alliance for the Betterment and Progress of Hong Kong said Ng had already allowed sufficient time for all legislators to speak. A state-run think tank held a seminar in Beijing today on the recent white paper on the One Country, Two Systems. Here in Hong Kong, groups are trying to make sure their concerns about the document are heard. Here's Diane To.
The aim of the forum, according to the Chinese Association of Hong Kong and Macau Studies, is to clarify all the stances made in the white paper. Chi Peng-fei, director of Renmin University's Center for Hong Kong, Macau and Taiwan Studies, called the document the most important milestone in the history of Hong Kong after the Sino-British Joint Declaration and the Basic Law. He said one country, two systems was a new concept, so the white paper serves to conclude the new experiences and understandings that came out of its implementation in a comprehensive manner. Peking University law professor Chen Duanhong explained that it's ridiculous for the central government to have the SAR managed by someone it doesn't trust. You wouldn't hand your own property over to be managed by someone you don't trust, he said. But here in Hong Kong, the legal sector is planning a silent rally on Friday, upset about the white paper's description of political prerequisites for the SAR's judiciary. Out to urge his fellow lawmakers take part, legal sector lawmaker Dennis Kwok said it's very important for those in the profession to clearly express their demand for judicial independence. And a concern group is calling on parents to beware of what their kids are being taught at school. This after reports that some schools will incorporate the white paper into the national education curriculum.
We are very concerned if the contents of the white paper creep into our classrooms. There is no consensus among the people of Hong Kong that these, what seems like new conditions and a reinterpretation of what one country, two systems and the basic law mean can somehow appear and be taken as the received wisdom.
The group is hosting an online petition that will last until the 4th of July, and the collected signatures will be published in local newspapers on the 7th of July. It said this is an important time in the history of Hong Kong to make local views loud and clear. Diane To, TVB News.
For the first time, the head of Beijing's Taiwan Affairs Office has visited the island in an attempt to forge better cross-strait ties. Jiang Jijun held talks this afternoon with Taiwan's mainland affairs chief Wang Yuqi. Jiang is on the island for a 4-day visit. He expressed hope both sides could further enhance mutual trust. Outside the venue where the meeting was held, a group of anti-mainland protesters staged a rally, demanding greater transparency in dealings between Beijing and Taipei. China has unveiled a new official map of the country, giving greater play to its claims on the South China Sea. The map shows continental China along with its self-declared sea boundary, stretching right down to the coasts of Malaysia, Vietnam, and the Philippines. Beijing is locked in a number of territorial disputes with its neighbors. Jameson Wong has more.
A sign of better ties between Beijing and Washington. People's Liberation Army Navy ships arrived in Pearl Harbor in Hawaii for the Rim of the Pacific military exercise. The U.S. is hosting the world's largest international maritime drill, which will be held between tomorrow and August 1st, and China is taking part for the first time. The exercise comes amid heightened tensions in the East China and South China Seas over territorial disputes between Beijing and some of its neighbors. Speaking during a visit to the U.S., Singapore's Prime Minister made clear international law should determine how disputes in the South China Sea should be resolved, rather than the notion that might is right.
But from the point of view of a country which must survive in an international system where there are big countries and small, and the outcomes cannot be determined just by might is right, I think international law must have a big weight in how disputes are resolved.
And Lee blamed rising nationalism for the tensions.
It is not easy to resolve because of another factor which has changed in 10 years, and that is that nationalism has become a stronger sentiment and a stronger factor in influencing governments.
One of these disputes involves China and Vietnam following Beijing's placement of an oil rig in the South China Sea. This has led to several confrontations between vessels from the two countries. Jameson Wong, TVB News.
New American and European sanctions aimed at Russia may be delayed after the Russian parliament cancelled a resolution allowing the use of its military in Ukraine. Meanwhile, the ceasefire in eastern Ukraine has been broken by sporadic clashes. Alan Buknia reports.
The shaky ceasefire could be thrown into peril after a Ukrainian military helicopter was shot down in separatist-held Sloviansk, killing 9 servicemen. The attack came just a day after the pro-Russian rebels vowed to respect a ceasefire. But a rebel spokesman in neighboring Luhansk insisted they have canceled all military operations and accused government troops of breaking the ceasefire. In Kiev, Ukrainian President Petro Poroshenko said it was the separatists violating the truce and instructed Ukrainian soldiers to fire back without hesitation if attacked. Russian President Vladimir Putin appealed for calm. In Austria, on an official visit, Putin said the talks during the ceasefire must be substantive and include guarantees for the rights of the Russian-speaking minority. Putin also said he had instructed his parliament to revoke a resolution authorizing him to use the Russian military in Ukraine, something it's now done. The move was welcomed by the United States and European Union, who are set to meet later this week to discuss further sanctions against Russia if it doesn't do more to defuse tensions in Ukraine.
We stand ready to assist the peace plan